Welcome, everybody. Oh, man, we already have 4 viewers already. Thank you, those 4 viewers, for already tuning in. That is great. Welcome to Chef Life Live, where we talk to the diverse world of the food service industry and give everyone a nice platform to tell their story, because everyone's got such a great story to tell. If all of you have noticed, yes, I'm wearing glasses. No, they are not for actual sight. They are blue lens glasses. I know it sounds kind of lame, but I've been on the computer a lot more than I used to. And yes, they do help a lot. But if you think I look weird in them or think I'm a loser for wearing them, let me know in the comments down below or in the chat. And I'm really excited for this episode. A good friend of mine, Nick, we met working at Alinea. He's a really awesome guy. He's doing really cool stuff out in California right now. But Nick was born and raised in Pasadena, California. He studied philosophy and world literature at UC Santa Cruz before discovering his love for cooking. His drive for excellence fueled his career as a chef, taking him to the infamous kitchen of Alinea in Chicago and back to sunny California to work at 3 Michelin-starred restaurant Quince in San Francisco before his current position as sous chef at Atelier Crenn. In his free time, Nick enjoys trying beers from the Bay's many breweries, rereading his cookbook collection, and relaxing with his wife at home. So I will bring Nick on, and we will get to know him just a little bit better. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing great. How's it going?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Very good. Just
awesome.
Hanging on my surprise 4-day weekend since we aren't going to Mexico now. So
right. So yeah, well, how's California then going, since you kind of how's COVID doing with everything with COVID and stuff like that?
I mean, I think it's probably the same story everywhere. I think we've probably at this point gone through 6 to 10 different concepts since we, first got shut down. We started out with, real basic kind of to-go stuff. Then we transitioned into more of our tasting menu, which is a pretty cool thing. It's been pretty popular, where basically it's like we film videos of how to plate each course, so that, open up the box. They've got, cups of stuff and garnish and kind of have the experience at home, which has been cool. A lot of the San Francisco foodie people have been super into it, because they kind of, go online and buy their tweezers and get to pretend to be chefs for a night, and stuff's done well.
Yeah, that's really cool.
We were doing street food for a little bit. We had a window open in the front of the restaurant.
Wow, that's awesome.
Selling lobster rolls and stuff like that. And then
that's really cool though.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's what everyone's having to go through, is and it's been kind of a fun test of how adaptable you can be, and, how you can roll with the punches. And especially, I think, in fine dining, it's easy to kind of get caught in that, not caught, but just in that mindset of, this is how we do food, and this is how we approach food, and how we approach the customers, and kind of being thrown all these curveballs. We've been challenged, but it's been fun in a lot of ways, and it's been kind of creative in a different way, where we've had a little bit more room to maybe do types of food that we wouldn't normally do, whether in fine dining or within a, French restaurant. We were doing grain, Moroccan grain bowls and stuff like that allow a little bit of different stuff. So I think that's kind of been the testament of all this, not just in California, but everywhere, but just how willing are you to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks and see what happens. I mean, fortunately for us, a lot of it's worked, and, we're hanging in there. We've been able to hire back hourly employees, which feels really, really good.
I bet.
But yeah, I mean, we did that. We built the terrace, outdoor, like everyone else did. Yeah. That went on for about a month and a half. Then they were telling us indoor was going to happen. So we moved back to our, tasting menu, 12 course or so tasting menu. Did that for about a week. And then, we got word that was shutting down again. So moved back to the terrace, outdoor got shut down. So now we've been doing straight up to go for, I guess it's been a few weeks now. So yeah, that's kind of the roller coaster in the middle.
Yeah, kind of the waves that everyone's been riding, like you said, with indoor. At least I haven't been out there in a while, but the temperature out there has got to be a little bit better than here in Chicago.
Oh, absolutely.
as
When
far
I
as
like heard
like
about the
offering
meal
the outdoor and stuff.
in
So
winter, I'm like, there's no freaking way. I mean, even we were
you,
worried. Like, we bought, every freaking heater in the entire world, and we're
I'm
putting it out
sure.
there.
I couldn't believe it. I saw like even the other night I had a private event and I was like driving around the loop and like there were people still sitting outside eating dinner and I was like, man, I can't do it. But I guess
You
people
guys
just
are
want that
dedicated.
escape. Yeah, they're wearing their parkas and they're just all huddled up. And it's like, whew, I couldn't. That's not for
So
me. But
outdoors totally going in Chicago? I thought.
I believe yes. I think they're allowing outdoor, but just because it's been so cold and now we're like getting a little bit more snow, and so like
Yeah.
people aren't. But I think some people still have like the whole awning or like a full tent, basically. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense of like you can't eat inside, you can only eat outside, but we're gonna make inside outside, and you're
Oh,
still
that I
gonna
mean
be
that was my
inside.
whole ridiculous thing, and what you saw happening was you got these little outdoor spaces that are not 75% covered, and you've got
Right.
people
I
shoved
know.
into them, and I'm like, this is the approach is interesting. I mean, I have a lot of criticism and thoughts about it, but
Well, hey, that's what we're here for. But
yeah, exactly.
yeah, no, it's crazy how things have been handled, but it's also been even, I'd say, impressive and admirable of how restaurants have really adapted to doing literally everything
Absolutely.
possible to make their businesses work and bring customers in and get their food out to people. It's quite impressive. So it's
No,
very
I think
crazy.
it's a testament to our industry as a whole, and I think I'm sure we'll get into it, but there's a lot of negatives and there's a lot of things you can say and a lot of things you can improve for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the fact that as many restaurants that have closed, and it's absolutely terrible, the amount that
Yeah.
have pivoted and changed their concepts and figured it out and haven't
Mm-hmm.
thrown their hands up and been like, all right, fuck it.
Yeah.
I think is a testament to the industry and chefs and front of house as well, and everyone who's
Yeah.
putting their heads down and trying to make it work. Because no one, at least like, I mean, I'm not talking like healthcare wise, but any other industry right now, no one's being put through the ringer like we are. That's just
No, I don't think
my
so either. I think that the food service industry has really gotten the short end of the stick as far as just how they're allowed to operate. And I know it's a whole different thing just because you're eating and there's always a group. And so like I understand where a lot of these rules and regulations are coming from, but it's like, I don't know, they're just really dragging restaurants through the coals. It's like
no,
probably
and that's
just
the conversation. Yeah, we all have is like, sure we'll shut down. We want to do the best thing, right? Like,
yeah, right.
of course, there's people out there who are assholes, but at the end of the day, I think most of us are like, yes, we want to make sure this stops, and we want to make sure we're participating in whatever measures need to happen. But at the same time, like, help us out, man. Like,
right. Exactly.
Where's our? I mean, yeah, we got a PPE loan, but
right.
A few $100,000 is nothing.
No, not for restaurants for sure. Yeah, so. Absolutely. Yeah, but we'll get into more of the pandemic in a bit. But let's get to know you a little bit better. So sure. you're from Pasadena. What was the food scene like for you growing up there?
Very diverse for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, between great Mexican food, a lot of Asian influence. If you kind of go, so Pasadena's to the east of LA. You go a little bit more, southeast. You've got these couple pockets of areas that are very predominantly Chinese, and I mean it's insane. We're talking like not obviously some good Chinese American style, but very very authentic. There's like one restaurant that is like considered one of like the best Szechuan restaurants outside of China. And I mean, you go into this place and the food is like otherworldly, like exotic doesn't even begin to describe it.
Transcendence, it just takes it to that level.
Yeah, it's just it starts making you realize, just flavors and textures, how are so different, you know, and what's
Mm-hmm.
valued in a different culture. And the interesting thing too is kind of after I'd eaten in this restaurant, I'd read a couple different articles or, you know, books about kind of food history and anthropology and the idea of kind of like food as medicine and how that was
Mm-hmm.
what framed food, right, for Eastern and Western cultures, like whether it was like, you know, Greek history and the humors and balancing of that and how that led into, you
Mm-hmm.
know, European history. But at like a certain point, Europe started diverting from that and started eating for
Yeah.
pleasure. Whereas very much like the Chinese history of food continued in that trajectory of food isn't just about, you know, tasting good, right? Like
Yeah.
that wasn't the most predominant thing. It was like how do these flavors and how do these ingredients affect you? And you see in
Right.
this food, like stuff tastes medicinal in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
at least from our palate. And
Yeah.
so that was like a really crazy experience of
That sounds really awesome. I mean, I definitely want to go there. I did not. I only spent a little time in California when I was in the Navy, and I didn't get to really appreciate the food scene. Just in all, I was in San Diego, but I just didn't really get to appreciate the food scene in California when I was there. So I definitely need to make a trip back so I can
go to
really dive into it.
Chengdu Taste is the name of
Chengdu Taste.
Chengdu Taste, and your mind will
All right, I
you'll
will.
like
I definitely
literally
want to
be
go.
almost hallucinogenic tripping from the amount of Szechuan
Whew.
chilies and
Oh
peppers
man,
into it.
that
You're like,
happens. Yeah, I believe you.
whoa, man, what's going on?
That's so funny.
And then
Would you?
the other shout out I have to give is like the Lebanese food is
Okay,
in the LA area is incredible. Like
nice.
I've never had anything even close. That's the one thing I crave when I go back home. I'm like, I need
Really,
need
Lebanese food?
kebab, need Lebanese food. Yeah,
That's fair.
so.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, with those two shout outs, are those like two of your favorite like Bay Area restaurants, or is that more just Pasadena?
That's Pasadena. I mean, Bay
Okay.
Area.
What's your best for like the Bay Area
Well, I
to
live
go
in the
to?
Mission, right, which is like, you know, very very Latino. So
Okay.
I eat taqueria food constantly. That's been my
Nice.
kind of my last few week goal is trying to try out all the staples, all the best known, and kind of
Yeah, for sure.
make my decision.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's great Chinese food up here too, and actually a lot of really good Vietnamese food.
Nice.
Is
I
the other
love
one.
Vietnamese food.
So good. Like
Yeah, that's
fresh.
awesome.
I love the fresh. You know, fish sauce. Give me fish sauce, cilantro, and basil, and
Right.
just,
Yeah, everyone in my apartment will know that like anytime I'm making like just about any sauce, it's gonna get a splash of fish sauce in it.
it's liquid gold, truly.
It is. It's so good.
It's so good.
Well, what about in Chicago? You know, while you were here, what was some of your favorite spots?
I mean, obviously Chicago dogs.
Well, yeah, of
The
course, right.
generic answer, Italian beef.
Right. Yeah.
I ate at Blackbird. That was kind of like that was one of me and Aaliyah's like first like nice dates
Oh,
together.
that's so nice.
Yeah,
That's how it was for Julie and I too. That was like our first nice
really?
dinner that we went to. Yeah.
I
That's so
love that
funny.
restaurant so much.
Me too.
Super cool flavors, like casual enough to where you don't feel stuffy, but like interesting enough technique where you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm eating, you know, fine dining.
Yeah, for sure. I was so upset when I read that it closed. I was like, no, man, because I would brag about it all the time and be like, we're going to Blackbird when you come to Chicago, and now I can't even do it. So upset.
I know it's a bummer.
But yeah. At least Chef Ryan has big kids now, and that is really good. If you ever come back to Chicago, let's go there. It's
okay. Absolutely.
It's legit.
For sure. Well, it's funny too. My CDC at Atelier Crenn, he was from Chicago. He worked at he was born in like the suburbs, lived in Chicago his whole life. His dad like owns like Culver's chains, and he's
nice.
good
Culver's
Chicago
chains.
boy.
Nice.
So we're like
that's awesome.
Like constantly reminiscing on whatever. I will say my favorite burger in Chicago that I think about all the time is Forbidden Root, that brewery.
Yeah.
They used to do like a Monday industry special, and it was like their burger, which is like super just straight up burger, American cheese. They did like a jardinera aioli. It was like that, a beer and a shot for like $12. But like that burger was
It's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. We were always upset. Where we're upset now. There was a bar down the street from our apartment called Spilt Milk, and there was a chef there that
Okay.
had an awesome late night bar menu. It was like 4 or 5 things, but their burger, oh, it was so good. And then he moved to another restaurant, and it was just, yeah, it was so
No, when you
upsetting.
find a good burger, like it's
Yeah,
it's the
it's
best.
devastating when it leaves you. It's like, no,
You're
how
like,
could you do this to
how
me?
can yeah.
Yeah, come back. All right. All right. Well, now that we've gotten to know you just a little bit, let's get into some of our deeper questions. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, which of course requires no garnish. Okay, so I've started asking this to people just because I've gotten so much good response for people that actually want to be interviewed and talk about themselves and everything. But like, how do you really feel about like being interviewed and yeah, talking about yourself? Like, it's kind of an odd concept.
Definitely is. I mean, already like a pretty high anxiety person. So leading up to today, I definitely had a little bit of fear,
Right.
but I don't know. I think, yeah. So there's like that. That was one side, kind of just like, oh God, like I gotta see myself and kind of hear myself, and no one wants to hear themselves on video.
Right.
But
That's very true.
I'm sure you gotta actually like go back and listen to your shit.
It's editing my videos is rough because I have to like go over the same clip and find like that perfect soundbite and just hear the same things over and over again. I was like, I can't do this.
And you're like just ready to stab your eardrums out.
Yeah, it's like, God, that's the worst voice ever.
Yeah.
But
So
do you have like a philosophy? I can't even say it. Philosophical take on like humans' interests in interviewing other humans with studying philosophy.
oh wow, we're going big. Okay.
We're going big, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it's an interesting medium, and I think it's one that inevitably has like a human connection to it, and especially if it's a topic that you're interested in, whether whoever's watching your videos is a chef or a foodie or whatever the case may be. You watch someone and you want to. I think there's a dynamic of like you want to have that connection. You want them to kind of maybe say the stuff you want to hear, maybe say some stuff you don't want to hear, and have a dialogue, maybe be upset with what they're saying, but I think it's this desire to like see another human talk, give their perspective, and have some sort of interaction with it, but an interaction that's separated by, in this case, like a screen, right? So like you talk, but a step back. So I think that's maybe kind of a big draw of it, is that you get to have that without a direct dialogue.
Definitely. So going from studying philosophy, like how did you find cooking and then becoming a professional chef? That's quite the transition.
Yeah. So I mean, it was. So basically, I mean, long story short, I was studying philosophy and world lit. Was very focused on my studies, very into it. I did like speech and debate in high school. I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to be an attorney. Kind of as I got older, I thought about, I wanted to get kind of more into academia, that side, professor. And, not to get too dark, but more or less what happened, I was in college and I got addicted to heroin. And I, was still in school, still doing fine. I was never at the point where like I was dropping out, or I still got good grades. And I mean, it's kind of the whole self-justification to yourself of, oh, well, I've got a 3.8 GPA. Like, what's wrong with this?
Yeah.
But it eventually caught up with itself, as is inevitable. And, I moved back home for a little bit, tried to get clean there. Didn't happen. Happened for a little bit. Was like, okay, I'm going to go finish. I had like one semester left. And I went back to Santa Cruz. Kind of was getting back into school, taking a couple classes, and then summer came, and I was like, you know, in all honesty, I was like, I just need a job for money, you know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Yeah.
support myself, whether it be if I was using that week or if I was trying to pay rent, whatever.
Yeah.
And I always liked cooking. My family always ate well, and I got a job as a dishwasher at a restaurant,
Okay.
and I started washing dishes, and like it was a crazy moment. I felt like accountable in
Okay.
so many ways, and I all of a sudden, even though I was just washing dishes, like people needed me to be at work. Like if I wasn't there, the kitchen wasn't going to happen, you know. And
Yeah.
then I started seeing dudes cooking on the line. I was just like, whoa, like this is crazy, you know. How can you be
Yeah.
cooking 10 different pans at a time, and you know, and
Mm-hmm.
be doing everything? And I got obsessed, and then I started prepping and, you know, basic stuff like that. And I was really fortunate because I had a chef. That chef at the time, he was in recovery and had gone through a lot of
Okay.
the same stuff I did, and it was kind of just
Mm-hmm.
all the right things at the right time. And I fell in love, and I remember telling my girlfriend at the time, well, I'm going to drop out of school to start cooking. She's like, you have a semester left. You're a fucking idiot. And I was like, yeah, maybe, but it feels right. And
Hey, yeah, gotta do what you love, you know? Yeah. Wow, that's quite the journey to go on,
yeah.
and kudos to end up where you are now, you know, working at a 3-star as a sous chef. It's great. Well, how did you end up in Chicago then? Obviously, I mean, you came to work at Alinea, but like, was that just the draw? You just want to go work at Alinea?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that was also kind of another kind of things just fell in the right place. I was at a restaurant for a very long time, probably like 4 years. It was 1833 in Monterey.
Mm-hmm.
The chef
Okay.
there at one point had been the exec sous at EMP, and I started working there before him. But then he came, and like it was kind of like he was there to, you know, kind of bring it up a bar, and it was an
Mm-hmm.
amazing restaurant space, this and that. Eventually he left. That exec sous became head chef. I became exec sous, that sort of thing. And I then my chef left. I was CDC for a little bit. At that point, though, the restaurant was kind of going, you know, just financial problems, this and that had been kind of lingering for a while. I got some sous chef job at a pretty awful restaurant just because I was like, I gotta jump ship,
Yeah.
you know, do what I can do
Yeah.
for myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, food was awful, but I was just doing what I could. And then, culinary agents, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like I had a resume up there, and one day I walked into work, and like I had a message from Alinea Group that was like, "Oh, we saw your resume. You know, we want to talk to you." And I was just like,
Oh wow.
"What?"
Yeah, right. That's like being called up to the majors. You're like, oh, they want me? What? Alinea?
Exactly. It was crazy. It was an amazing moment. I mean, you know, I think us as chefs, we always kind of it's an interesting balance, right? Like I think there's a lot of ego involved, but I think a lot of us are so self-critical,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
That
I mean,
you never like, at least for me, I was like, you know, I'd never eaten in a Michelin restaurant. It was something that's just kind of like this conceptual thing out there. And
yeah,
so,
right.
but I'm sure I think we've talked about this in the past, like just that.
Yeah, I mean, like I learned about Alinea in culinary school, and I read Grant Achat's book, and I like became obsessed. But it was this thing that seemed so unattainable that I could ever work in a restaurant of that caliber, and then like finally doing it, you're like, oh man, like I remember telling people before I left TPC, my only like real professional cooking job was at a country club. And I was like, man, I'm going to like kind of this lower level to like the top at one go. And it was just crazy to get there. And then, like you said, we're just constantly full of, critiquing ourselves and self-doubt. And that place definitely does not, or definitely does aid in those feelings more than
No, we
gets rid
all
of
have
them
our
for you.
PTSD war stories of that place.
Yes, we
For
do.
sure.
Yes, we do. I mean, yeah. I mean, working at Alinea is definitely tough. Like, most restaurants are tough. It's not an easy job, regardless of where you're at. But what did you take from Alinea and Chicago while you were here?
I mean, first off, I'll just say about Chicago, I miss it all the time. It's an amazing, amazing city.
Yeah.
And I met my wife there. So those two things,
Right.
regardless
Same.
of the restaurant part, like I
Right.
came out on top.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, I think, and all of us who have worked there, I think it teaches you a self-discipline that is so intense that,
Yeah.
and an idea of like, whether it's folding a towel or creating perfect mise en place, like there's a great like Buddhist quote of, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I think it all kind of leads back to that. It's like, if you have that focus and that dedication to something like, how you wipe your counter, it's going to apply to everything. And I think that, it's true within a fine dining mentality, but I think it's true within, just like life of a focus and a method. And
absolutely. It's that, it teaches you discipline in a certain way of, like you said, it's like a trickle down effect of like, if you do this really well, you should do everything else really well. And if that's how you practice it. So, Matthew, who used to work with us, said he used to crush taking out the trash. As we all, taking out the trash is always great. Or when we had to go and like jump on top of the dumpsters to flatten them, because like they would get fined if they were open. That was always a fun time. Yeah, too many stories. Like this show could be 4 hours long if we just
like me, you, Matt, Marcel, like all of us could just sit around. Alex, we could just all sit around Maddie for hours. And just
I mean, that was like a curse of ours. Like anytime we all got together, that's all we would talk about.
For sure.
All of our Alinea stories, and it was just like, and it still goes on for sure. Anytime I'm around, like
years later.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never going away. But because we did something there. We came together because we had that common struggle, and so we all had to go through the same stuff pretty much because everyone starts at the bottom. But
yeah.
Well, how did you know then it was time to like go back to California from Chicago?
I mean, at the end of the day, it was really just job opportunity. I got opportunity at Sous Chef at Quince, and it was kind of like, something I couldn't pass up.
That's fair.
That's really what it came down to. I mean, I left Alinea, in good terms, and obviously like working my ass off, but happy with what I was doing, and it was awesome leading the AM team and all that, and it just felt like I needed the next step for my career.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, were you nervous about going back, or were you excited to get out there, or just like we're just pumped for that opportunity of working at Quince as Sue?
I think it was a little bit of both. I was very excited the opportunity. Absolutely, like, okay, here we go. Like, this is the next step, and I kind of overcame this first like big hurdle. But no, I was bummed to leave Chicago for sure. I mean, like, I think our Alinea group and extent. I think there's like a super cool community we had. A lot, like, we all had this like nice connection, and it was for all the stress we went through. It was a really good group and a really good
it was
community.
We had good, even on our like really bad days there being Comies, like we usually left with a smile on our face for the most part. We'd laugh it off about whatever happened. And there was always moments throughout any day that was terrible that you could kind of look back on and smile or laugh about, whatever it may be. But we definitely had a good group there of people working around us, and it was there were fun moments.
They were fun. They were terrible, but at the end of the day, we all went and got like a beer or something and talked.
Right. Yeah.
That was it.
Right.
In a lot of
or
ways,
cried.
It was one of the better teams I've worked with. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I definitely wouldn't trade it for anything. It was like you said, it was tough, but definitely wouldn't trade it for anything. But with going out to Quince or even at Crenn now, is there a dish that you've put on the menu that you're particularly proud of?
Um, I mean, yeah, I honestly, I mean, I had a little bit more influence, I think, at Quince, just in the sense that the Tusk, sort of style has changed the menu a lot. Atelier Crenn
Hmm.
kind of has its core sort of things that we, change seasonally or whatnot,
Okay.
which
Hmm.
is kind of just two different approaches to, how you want to run your restaurant. One's not better than the other. But I will say, I mean, a dish I was very happy with kind of once I got my stride at Quince was
Hmm.
I was trying to focus on, we had a farm there. And so obviously,
Okay.
you have the stuff you want, and then you got cover crops, you've got raw greens that grow this and that. And it was like a few years ago for my birthday. I ate a dish I went to Meadowood for my birthday. And we had this dish, and it was Petrali sole just steamed in cover crops, right? So like it was after spring, coming around to the new year. There's like
Hmm.
fields of old fava greens and pea shoots.
Yeah.
Super simple dish. There's a sauce poured
Hmm.
table side, but really all it was that. And the idea of that like utilization of just random stuff really had an impact on me. And I was like, how can I kind of use that same idea? So interestingly, as we were kind of coming into winter, all of our broccoli raw, all of the whatever greens, chard, this and that,
Hmm.
especially like the brassicas were all turning into raw. And especially like fine dining cons, you can't really put like a chunk of broccoli, with like a bunch of
Right.
stuff growing off, a bunch of leaves on the plate.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to like kind of take the California idea, kind of, and take it into the Quince kind of classic, Italian food sort of thing with
Hmm.
the French twist, all of that. And so basically did a dish which was all the robs from our farm, blanched, ground them through like a meat grinder, and then made almost like a bagna cauda cream sauce. So like
Mm.
triple cream, super reduced cream, bunch of anchovy,
Yeah.
garlic, and basically you just
Sounds
like
really good.
cook all those ground greens down in that. Just did that with like a bunch of chicories, puntarelle,
Mm.
anchovy
Yeah.
lemon, and then with like four different preparations of lamb, so lamb saddle, lamb chop, lamb
Nice.
bacon, just kind of like showcase of like lamb that we were getting, like really beautiful lamb from this cool producer, and then just this is kind of the stuff on our farm that's doesn't really
Yeah.
have a use. And yeah, trying to really think sustainably and use the stuff that's not obvious and easy to put on a plate and
Yeah.
make
For
it a
sure.
little bit more elevated.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds awesome. That sounds really
Yeah,
good. I'll crush
tasty.
that.
And yeah.
How much at Quince and at Crenn, like how much involvement do you have with hiring and kind of onboarding young cooks or chefs who come on board?
I've had a pretty yeah, I think I've had a pretty good influence. I think especially just because I think maybe more so at Atelier Crenn, just because it's a smaller crew and I'm kind of a little bit higher position.
Hmm.
Um, but no, I mean, even at Quince, it's a whole thing too. Like small, it's a small world, right? So like if I was at Quince and
Yeah.
someone put in a resume that was like, oh, this guy said he worked in Chicago, or he said he worked at Alinea, it was like
Yeah.
Nick, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think yeah, definitely to tell you credit. I mean, yeah, I look through resumes, being the CDC. I mean, we do. I mean, he's the one that does more of the interviewing, but I mean, definitely preliminary
Okay.
sort of
Yeah.
stuff is both of us.
Well, when they do arrive and after a stage or anything and actually like come on board, they're hired full time. How do you as a sous chef, like how do you cultivate and retain that team mentality to make sure everyone's helping each other? Got that great team mentality. How do you try to balance that and maintain that in the kitchen?
I think I think a big part of that is engagement, right?
Hmm.
Like at the end of the day, you can you can have a very high standard for people. You can teach them, but like if they're not excited, it's like it's worthless in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? And like, and that's not to say like in many aspects our job can get boring. You know, I mean that's just the end of the day. Regardless of what position you're in, you're gonna break 1,000 freaking fish. You're gonna peel hundreds of quarts of onion. You know, a lot of it's boring, so to speak. But I think a lot of it is making sure that, you know, people are learning new things and that you take the time to like teach them. Because I know like those have been, for me, the best moments of my career is when like a sous chef or a chef is like taken even just 5 minutes out of their day and been like, here's how to do this. Maybe you have no idea, or here's how to do this a little bit better. And I think once people feel like they're actually cared about and like their work's not just being like, you're not just looking over their shoulder to tell them they're, you know, doing a shit job, but to be like, well, actually, I think you can be more efficient this way. It takes the discourse and the conversation and makes it a bit more like, you know, personal. And I think just too, like listening to people and like, what do they want to learn? You know, we have a guy right now that he came in, he's a Korean guy and he wants to learn French food. And in all honesty, our menu right now, especially with like to go, is not super French. I mean, obviously we're not doing beurre blancs to go or stuff like that, but something cool we've been doing. There's an interesting book called Eating with the Chefs, which is like a family meal book. It's like famous restaurants and the family meals. It's like a fight-in book, super beautiful. So we've been giving our cooks like pick a day from whatever restaurant you want to do. You're in charge of family meal. You're in charge. Tell me what you want to order, and we'll help you out as managers. But ultimately, like it's your day. And just we did a week of it last week, and like the engagement and the excitement that I taught this guy Ethan, this Korean guy, how to smoke a pork butt. And he's like, wow, like American barbecue is super cool, you know, and like, it feels great. It feels great to teach people and keep people engaged. And I think that's really, to me, like what my focus is just engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great mentality to have for sure. And that's a big thing of being a hands-on leader and teacher, to show that the people underneath you, that you do care about them and you care that they're succeeding and moving forward, and not just for the restaurant, but for themselves. And I think that always resonates with younger cooks, especially, that someone's taking the time to show them how to do things correctly. Because, you know, that's what we all want to do. We all want to learn, and we want to learn from the best. And so it is hard when you go somewhere and like you just don't have that, you know, and it makes it hard to want to like stick around. But either way, what about like having a diverse staff? Like, how do you try to, I don't say maintain or hire a diverse staff, but you know, how does Crenn at least handle trying to keep a diverse staff? I keep repeating that. I'm sorry, but you know.
I mean, I think, that's a tough question, because you can market yourself in a certain way, right? And I think us, especially Atelier Crenn, I mean, the first female 3 Michelin star restaurant, she's a lesbian. I mean, you know, just straight off the bat, right? We're getting applicants, I think, in general, that are very different than what you would get at, say, like a, you know, male run, very, you know, whatever.
Probably.
But even then, I mean, that being said, like it's tough, and I think, you know, it's an issue that maybe is bigger than an individual restaurant or even us as like a manager, is that does our industry draw in, you know, diverse voices and characters? And I think in a lot of ways, off the bat, no, it really doesn't. And that's for, you know, so many reasons. Way outside the scope of what we can talk about for the next, you know, 40 minutes or whatever. But
I mean, it's fine.
But you know what I'm saying? I think, but that being said, I think we do, you know, we have given opportunities to people that, you know, maybe don't offhand have the nicest resume, or we've, promoted some people to management that maybe haven't, worked at a ton of 3 stars, or even maybe had management positions, and in this one case I'm thinking about, I won't go into too much detail because I don't know if they're watching or whatever, but like we did that and she's done an absolutely amazing job, like
Yeah.
off resume wise, has some experiences in that. 3-star experience, not really. Management experience, not too much, but she put her time in, and we gave her that bump, and she's stepped up in ways that we didn't even imagine. So I mean, I think that's part of it too, is just kind of taking a step, because you see it the other side too, right? Like everyone's had a guy that comes into the restaurant with like amazing resume, and you're like, this guy does not a cook.
Yeah, he does. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, so I think that's part of it. I think it's part of us, and I think that's where the the responsibility comes as managers or hiring managers, is to like maybe look a little bit beyond the resume and be like,
yeah, for sure.
Does all these accolades really the end all be all? And yeah, probably not.
No, yeah, of course not. I kind of piggybacking off of like diversity. Now I follow you on Instagram and everything, and I know that you were involved with a lot of the protesting that was happening around San Francisco, Black Lives Matter and everything. San Francisco, like a lot of places around the country and the world, after George Floyd's murder and a lot of the other things that happened this summer. Did working in the industry have anything to do with your participation during those, of working with so many diverse people to like, I mean, obviously it was wrong either way, but working in the industry with so many people, did that kind of help spur that, passion to want to go out and help and fight that fight?
I mean, yeah, I think if, we in our industry, we're at the end of the day, we're workers, right? Like that's who we are. And we can talk a lot about the passion and the artistic side and all of that. And all that's very noble causes and very beautiful and things that I hold myself to. And I know you do. And a lot of, most chefs, regardless of level, have that. But at the end of the day, we're working a job, and we work a job with a lot of people that are from diverse backgrounds that are problematic, have had issues, or ones that, whether it's an immigrant. I mean, that's the biggest one, right? That comes to mind.
Yeah.
Is wherever you work, right? There's the guys that are holding the restaurant down, whether they're prep cooks, dishwashers, et cetera, are immigrants. And I think, having that experience, if you're not a just at core piece of shit person, you have to have some sort of, compassion for that. And you see whether we don't even need to get into the background of any of these people that were murdered by the police, because the background doesn't matter at all.
That doesn't matter, right? Yeah.
The reality is that all these people, in some way are workers, are laborers, or someone that's trying to, exist for themselves and exist for their family. And you see their lives being taken away, and you see their lives being taken away for reasons that we can't, like, are almost impossible to comprehend outside of the idea that the systematic racism that exists in our communities and society, that's the only answer for it. And yeah, you have to be compassionate, and you have to, think about what you can do. And I mean, I think a lot of it goes to kind of I saw a lot of connections, right? Like, between what's kind of going on in our industry and kind of what's going on like in the greater world, and in the sense that, kind of where do we put this responsibility, right? Like who's it on?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna digress a little bit in terms of
just
like restaurants.
No, it's good. Talk away. It's great.
But like, right, we've gone through a lot of strides in restaurants. Like the classic is, the chef throwing pans and, making you feel like shit. And we've grown a lot.
Yeah.
People get health insurance now. People get, more time off, paternity leave, slightly higher salary. We make our cooks go eat family meal instead of like eating over a trash can while they're in the shits, right? Like all these little things, and it feels good.
Yeah.
And it is progress. And we don't have it all figured out in any sense of the word. But I think for all the, negative things that have come out with a lot of chefs in the last couple of years, we also, the good ones have also made big strides.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think at the same time, we've put a lot on ourselves, right? Like at the end of the day, where are we asking for the solutions to come from? And it's, chef, how do you make sure your cooks take a break? And at the end of the day, you're like, as a chef or a sous chef or whatever, you're like, well, you're telling me I need to hit this labor percentage. I have to hit this food cost. But we're not asking the consumers to pay anything more. Yeah. Right? Like, there's a lot of demands that are being put on us as restaurants when I think there's a lot bigger demands that can be put on, the people that are eating our food. Yeah. And the reason I bring this up is because I think it expands to this kind of like idea of just, the people that need a voice in our society. You can tell, you can talk shit about, oh, this community doesn't have good education, or, they don't have the right programs, or this and that. But like at a certain point, us as like the average Americans, average people need to like put our foot down and be like, well, no, there's these bigger forces at work that maybe we can start making demands upon. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very, very well said. And there's so much put on chefs in our industry, but like you said, there's just so much being put on so many other people. And there's I feel like there's more good people out there than bad that need to start putting their foot down more. And I think this summer with the protests and everything was just a big show of that, of like, we're tired of this. And I wouldn't, chefs have to work and everyone's got to keep working, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of rally for chefs of like, where's from just to the government, where's our support? You're kind of screwing us over here. And, we work hard and we want the same things that these other, $1 million companies get. And it's like, what's the deal? So it's very, very well, very well said.
Thank you.
And hopefully we keep seeing those changes in both, the Black Lives Matter movement and better treatment in that, and, better treatment in restaurants and just better treatment of humans overall,
Exactly.
We're all coming
together. It's us coming together and seeing a lot more commonalities, whether it's, just working class people, whether it's, whatever it may be, but realizing that the commonality amongst a lot of us is way bigger than what seems obvious. And if a lot of our voices start coming together and making demands, we can actually start disrupting things.
Yeah, definitely. Now, switching lanes a little bit. Now, you mentioned before your drug use and everything, and drug use is a pretty common thing in restaurants, or it was at a certain point. Chefs are working late, they go out at night drinking, and they got to do some cocaine before they go to work the next morning and stuff like that. It's very common, and it still is. And do you think with the industry's culture, do you think that breeds interest in drugs, or do you think those who work in the industry are prone to drug use? Like it's kind of chicken and the egg thing. Like,
I mean, obviously, it's both. I think there's a certain type of person that is drawn to the adrenaline and the excitement, and I mean that's the same. The same guy that wants to work freaking 16 hours in a kitchen, stressed out, go prep into service into breaking down, is the same kind of person that wants to, do a line at the end of the night, or even just is like like has the mindset of like, oh, well, that might be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. But I mean, I don't know. It's tough to say, at least in terms of like what what came first or what's the reason for it. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, I guess the stress makes you want to drink. I mean, that's the end of the right. Like, and even just the idea that like, oh, at the end of the night, like I just worked 16 hours and yeah, like I want to crush a few beers, and even just, I mean, I'm not saying like I don't drink anymore, right? But like just coming from like any sort of influence of like what people in recovery talk about or whatever, that like, I mean, even that's negative, right? Like at the end of the day, if you feel like you need a beer, it's wrong. Now I'm not saying I buy into that, but my point is just we have coping mechanisms, and I mean us as humans have coping mechanisms, and I actually read a really interesting article the other day, not even about drug use, but about this idea of people who have very little free time, right? Will put off sleep just to be able to feel a little bit more control over the fact that they have more free time. So if you get home,
I get that.
And we all feel it, right? Like, I mean,
yeah, I definitely get that.
You get home at 2 a.m., you got to be back at work at say 10 the next day. You want to go to bed, but you're like, shit, I've got 8 hours to myself. I want a little bit of that.
Yeah, definitely. That's so funny. Like it's so obvious that that's what we want, and it's like it never really occurred to me of like why I would stay up late after getting home. Where it's like, yeah, I just want some time where it's like I'm not working on something, or or being called into work, or like don't have the anxiety of like needing to be at work and stuff. And so it's that's a nail on the head there for sure.
Yeah, give me some stupid TV, a beer, and a joint. And I'm going to tune out for 2 hours before I have to go right back to it.
Right. Exactly.
And like that aspect, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, And
no.
But I think it goes back to if you're at the point where you feel like you need that, like at least like, I need an upper to get through my work day. That's kind of when it starts being problematic. But I think that's also on the individual in a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, like you said, we all have our coping mechanisms, and some people need to shine or cry in the shower when they get home, or in the walk-in, or whatever they got to do to let it out. And some people it's doing a line or what, having a few drinks. And so it's hard to say like what is truly, self-destructive, and not, obviously.
Yeah,
there are things that are self-destructive more than others, but if you got to cope, you got to cope, and so it's hard to tell someone not to if you've never really been through it. So it's the food service industry is crazy.
I mean, I had the kind of opposite experience, which was like I was at the absolute bottom, and I found something that made me really happy. So that's what makes me feel like I think it's maybe kind of back to my previous point, but like, yeah, you can put a lot on restaurants and the restaurant industry and say that, and obviously work-life balance needs to get better in a lot of these things.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
At the end of the day, I've met a lot of chefs who work a lot that don't do anything. And I've met chefs that, and like everything in between. And so it is individual and not in the sense of like,
of course,
you're an addict and it's all on you, because there's, more to it than that. But
yeah, for sure.
Kind of
yeah, addiction's a wild thing, regardless of if it's hard drugs or soda. It's or sugar, caffeine. It's its own monster that we fully don't understand yet, and so it's added stress of working in the kitchen. I'm sure it doesn't help to it, but
exactly.
we still do it. we still go back in and
we do
and work the line. So someone's got to make the food for people. Someone's got to make the donuts, as they say. Yeah, they want it. And it's their fault, actually. It's the customer's fault that we have to do this.
That's the interesting thing too. Is like all these people, like with it, with COVID, it's like the disappointment of to-go food, right?
Yeah,
and people had it. You order your food,
right?
Like, this is kind of cold. Like it's not great. I mean, I don't hate the restaurant for it because I get it.
Well, of course
but
not.
What it really goes to show is like going into a restaurant is such a valued experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we all want to go and eat at a freaking restaurant so bad.
Yeah. So badly. I mean, I do. I miss going out to restaurants so much.
Yeah.
Like so much. And just having it like regular. Like I think I've been to one or two during the pandemic, and it's just, it's just not the same. everyone has to be like super far apart, and there's not as many people, so you don't get that like kind of loudness of everyone talking and chatting depending on where you're at. But it's like I miss that environment, and so it's definitely I definitely understand why people go freeze their asses off out here in Chicago, because they want it so badly.
Yeah, give me a freaking restaurant, please, man.
Yeah, it's like, please, let me just get back to normal. But so obviously, as chefs, like one of the best things about being a chef is like you can never learn everything. There's always something new to learn: techniques, cuisines, culture, whatever it may be. If you could learn anything about cooking tomorrow, what would you want to do?
All right, I was excited about this question. I've got two different answers. So number one is pastry. Like, I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of pastry.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy, it's easy when you're, there's always the separation, the savory kitchen and the pastry kitchen.
Yeah, for sure.
You could be on a station, right? Like you'd be working fish and like you can go over to the meat guy and be like, how do you cook this or whatever? Or like, how do I butcher a piece of lamb? But it's kind of, it's like different. You can't really pop over to pastry and be like, there's always that disconnect.
Right, for sure.
And we don't find ourselves with a lot of free time in the kitchen to be like.
Right, you don't have that like hour where it's like, oh, I don't have anything to do. I'm just gonna go hang out in pastry for a little bit. Like that doesn't exist.
So that was
you always tell yourself it will.
That's been my number one. And then my number two is kind of the flip side, something that I feel like I already kind of do, but like smoking. I would love to go work at a southern smoke restaurant, restaurant, and like wake up at 4 a.m. and learn how, and do the whole thing, like large
the whole thing.
I mean, I could throw a pork butt into a smoker and control
of course,
right? Or like,
but to do the whole hog kind of thing.
But like really like, just see it on like a large scale and like see what it's like. And I mean, I was down in South Carolina for my honeymoon, and I mean, the barbecue we had down there is just like, it's mind blowing. It's just like, and it's so
for sure.
Basic, right? You've got a hunk of meat, salt, pepper, maybe a rub, and some coals. But what they do with that and the flavor they extract is amazing. I would love to just like feel like, okay, I'm not a pit master, but
not pit master, but like, for sure. It's funny you say those two things because I'm like in the same boat. I've been trying to get better at pastry and like learning how to do desserts and everything better, and then smoking too. Like I just have never really done it. Like you said, I could throw a pork butt in a smoker and go to town, and it'll be pretty tasty. But like to do the whole thing, to like really do it like pit masters do, it's next level. Barbecue, but all right. Well, that is all of my like regular questions I have for you, and that was really great. That was like one of the better rounds of questioning and answers that I've had on the show. So thank you for that. But now we're into the fun part, a little bit lighter as we end the show. And of course, it's the lightning round. All right, Nick, lightning round. Answer as fast as you can, whatever first comes to mind. And it's okay if you don't, because nobody has really yet answered very quickly, and that's okay. But okay. Number one, what is the best pasta dish?
Puttanesca.
All right, that's a good one. All right, number two, what is something ugly that you routinely wear?
All of my hoodies.
All of your hoodies. All right, that's fair. What is the funniest animal?
Platypus.
Platypus?
They're ridiculous. Like a duck.
They are ridiculous.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah. What's going on? Cake or pie?
Cake.
Really? Oh man.
I don't know.
I'm a pie man.
Probably pie.
I'm not big on like super sweet things, and so I feel like pies are just always a little bit more balanced because you got the buttery crust that goes with it. But that's just me.
That is true. I'm more like simple though. Like it's like a nice like slice of like not super sweet. Maybe like a little fruit filling in between.
Just a good sponge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I've been watching
British.
the British baking show, of course. And so, yeah, good sponge.
Oh,
Good
wow.
sponge.
What a nice sponge.
Good sponge. It's a bit dry. Okay, number 5. Have you ever slapped anyone?
No.
Well, you never
did
know.
throw a chicken leg at a guy once.
Nice.
That was the closest, but he was eating my mise en place, and we got in a fight, and I threw it at him.
That's fair. I mean, you can't do that. That's funny. What movie makes you cry?
Oh God, a lot. You know what I watched the other day for like the millionth time that brought tears to my eyes was School of Rock.
Really? I've never heard that one.
It's so sweet.
What part makes you cry in School of
Like
Rock?
at the end when he's uplifting all the kids and like
I mean, it's a great movie. I love it. I just
saw it recently. I mean, just like, oh wow, I feel maybe it was the mood. I don't know.
Maybe. Okay. What thing are you most scared to do?
Cave diving, for sure.
Cave diving? I could see
read
that.
about this shit?
No, I have not. It's crazy. I mean,
you literally go dive into a cave.
Yeah, and you like
people die all the time.
Yeah, I know. It's dark.
I saw a whole
probably
thing
get lost.
Ever since, I've just been like, that is the most terrifying thing ever. Underwater, right? Like,
yeah, that makes it worse.
Sight,
right?
And you're in
just
cave.
Dead silence too. Yeah, that does sound very scary.
I'm gonna ask you, Alex. What's your answer?
Most scariest thing? I don't know. Probably like getting lost in like in a live situation, like lost in like a winter tundra somewhere.
Like Survivor. Yeah, that's like the same mindset.
It is kind of the same thing because I feel like that would be so terrible. Like I hate being cold, and
I just can't see anything. There's no way out.
I feel like that would be so terrifying. There's no food or anything to eat. That would just be terrible. All right. What's your best dance move?
I don't dance.
Oh, come on, Nick. You gotta dance. You didn't dance at your wedding?
I had a wedding with 2 people.
You still go dance.
Best dance
Julie,
move?
I don't have any. It's okay.
Sorry.
Running Man. Just say Running Man. That's the easy one.
What's that, man?
It's like I can't do it. I'm in a chair. I can't do it. But
me too.
Julie wants to correct my answer for most frightening or most thing I'm most scared of is losing my fiance. So that's it.
Well, yeah.
That's it. All right. What is the most used app on your phone?
Probably Reddit, honestly.
Reddit?
Yeah.
I still haven't gotten into Reddit. It kind of like baffles me. Like I know how it works, but it's like there's just so much stuff of like going into like subreddit after subreddit, and it seems like just this crazy wormhole that I'm scared to get into.
Yeah, it's true, but what social media pretty much is that.
That's very true. What pair of socks would you wear for the rest of your life?
I think just a classic, ankle length sports sock.
Yeah, I feel you. Me too.
I've tried for a while to do like the fancy ones, and
I have a few pairs. Yeah, I'm not too big into those either. But it depends. I do like getting nice things for my feet. I do take like good shoes very seriously, and like good socks. You gotta take care of your feet, especially in our industry for sure. But
no, for sure.
Gotta take care of your feet. All right. What is your favorite number?
3.
3. All right.
What's
yours? That's a good one. I don't have a favorite number, honestly. People always ask like my lucky number and stuff, and I honestly just don't have one. I would always try to like hold on to one for every so often, so I just had it locked and loaded when people ask me. I just don't care about it enough to be like, it's just like, I just never cared to be like have a favorite number, I guess. But
yeah.
All right, last one. This is kind of toughy, so it's okay if you want to take some time on this. But describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
This is so earlier we talked about like the balance between like being overly egotistical, but then also being incredibly critical of yourself. That's basically where I'm at right now.
Okay, that's fair. We'll compress that in. We'll just compress that into 5 words, like being
like absolutely
egotistical while critical
all the time, and maybe I'm not going to be anything.
That's a tough one. All right. Well, Nick, that is all my questions I have for you. Thank you so much for doing this with me, for talking to me. It was really great to catch up and learn more about you, and learn about your experiences. It was awesome. So again, thank you.
Thank you, man. It was awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. We had a really good turnout. I think, Nick, that was because of you. You had a lot of people giving you love out there, talking about your time in Alinea and everything. So a lot of love for Nick. It was great. So again, thank you, everyone, for watching and tuning in. Just be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for great content. Hit the bell for notifications, like, share, all that good stuff. I was a little lazy this week. Unfortunately, I don't have the cool graphics to announce who I'm having next week, so it'll be a bit of a surprise. But join us next week. Have another awesome chef on. And I hope everyone has a good night. And we'll see you next time, chefs. So have a good night.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Peace.